Hi everyone, welcome to our CFDA conversation, Optimizing Your Direct-to-Consumer Business. Thanks everyone for joining us, and thank you, 19th Amendment, for hosting us at your office space. I'm going to do really quick introductions and then I'll let our speakers speak. So to my very far right is Sam Kaplan, who is moderating this conversation. And Sam leads the consumer venture investing effort at Burch Creative Capital, the early stage investment office of entrepreneur J. Christopher Burch. Representative investment includes Solid and Stripes, Dodd, Saludos, Bobble Bar, Snow, and Dirty Lemon. So welcome, Sam. Thanks for being here. To Sam's left is Amanda Curtis, and she's the co-founder and CEO of 19th Amendment, a platform that gives brands a way to sell directly to consumers without holding inventory through an on-demand manufacturing technology and network of U.S. production facilities. A former fashion designer turned tech entrepreneur, Amanda, through 19th Amendment's Fashion as Experience, has worked with over 780 fashion brands across 30 countries and created partnerships with global companies like Disney, Macy's, Lord & Taylor, Microsoft, and Dell. So welcome, Amanda. To Amanda's left is Maggie Winter, who is the co-founder and CEO of Air, a digitally native women's wear brand that launched in 2014. Air, which stands for All Year Round, specializes in seasonless essentials designed for everyday life. Maggie and her co-founders incubated Air with Bonobos, the pioneering digital menswear company. Most of Air's business is done online, but the brand is also carried by Nordstrom and Shopbop, and just opened its first permanent store in Soho and as a summer pop-up in the Hamptons. Welcome, Maggie. And to Maggie's left is Melissa Holstein, who is Head of Client Services at One Rockwell. Melissa delivers strategy, process, and oversees the client support team responsible for new builds, rescue projects, and post-launch managed services. Melissa has 7 years of digital agency experience providing solutions on various e-commerce platforms for fashion, lifestyle, and beauty brands. In addition, she has an extensive background in product development and marketing for the retail consumer goods industry. So welcome, Melissa. And last but not least is Paul Healion, who is the co-founder and CTO of One Rockwell. Paul has more than 20 years of experience in software and web development. At One Rockwell, he oversees the technology department's initiatives for clients from infrastructure assessment to development, testing, launch, deployment, and post-launch support. Before One Rockwell, Paul served as chief architect at spiralfog.com. So welcome, Paul. I'll let you guys take it away.
Good morning, guys. Welcome, thanks for joining us. I think how we're going to go about this morning is obviously we're talking about optimizing your direct business. I think we have an amazing panel here to touch on how they've been able to do that with their businesses and potential strategies for you guys to do that with yours. We're going to start and keep this as conversational as possible amongst the panel, and then we'll open up for Q&A towards the end, if that makes sense. So I think what would be a nice way to start would be all if you could just talk about obviously founded an e-commerce agency about 10 years ago in One Rockwell, and I'd be curious to hear how clients' needs have really changed and how optimizing an e-commerce business has changed over the past 10 years.
Wow, yeah, that's a big difference, a big change. When we first started, I think there's a natural kind of life cycle of e-commerce. Most people were new to being online. Most people and brands. It was their first kind of venture, or at least they struggled to get online. Platforms were very, very difficult to use. They were heavily engineered and quite clunky, hard to integrate and hard to grow. Or they were very basic and very, very plug and play, cookie cutter looking feel. So you had a big disparity between small brands or emerging brands trying to get online and the big brands who could afford to do a lot online. We got into e-commerce because we saw a gap in the market, but there was a big difference between that mom and pop type of cookie cutter feel and the big enterprise level sites. We saw that gap. So what we tried to do is implement a service for mid-tier emerging brands to kind of get online in the same manner. Really try and be enterprise at a smaller budget, a lower budget. And it was difficult back then because the tools weren't really around. Now, when people say my cousin in the basement built a website, it's not far from the truth. That the tools now are so aggressively good and so interoperable and so integratable that you can get online and really appear to be a big company with a wealth of resources behind you when you don't have that. If you automate enough and if you use the correct tools, you can be batted well above your weight these days without spending millions. I think the difference between then and now is you can compete a lot easier these days in smaller brands.
I think that makes total sense, and I think one of the things you mentioned there was in the early days, the big companies who could afford to build out a presence online versus the smaller companies who couldn't. And as an investor, I think something I hear constantly from companies coming in the door is, I want to build out my online footprint, but I need capital to do so, and I need a pretty big number to do so, and that feels, it feels like a really huge stumbling block. And so I'd like to pass this over to Maggie, because Maggie at AIR, if I recall correctly, spent the first couple of years really just growing organically and growing out of Bonobos and kind of seeing both ways, right? Because Bonobos was certainly a company that was the pioneer in the digital space, that had built an amazing business, an amazing brand, and in the later stages started spending pretty aggressively online. You got to see the good and bad of both and build AIR accordingly, and I'd love to hear about just kind of the early years in AIR and how you were thinking about organic growth, building online business slowly but surely.
Absolutely. So my background is in merchandising, and I worked at J.Crew and at Madewell for about 8 years for Mickey Drexler, best merchant. Many of you probably know him. And he'll tell you any good merchant is responsible for spotting trends, and he's a product merchant. You look for trends in product. You also look for trends in consumer behavior. And so 6 years ago, I left J.Crew to go move to a digitally native vertical brand. I went to Bonobos and started working on what became AIR. AIR stands for all year round, and what we wanted to do was respond to a completely different shopping habit we were seeing. There was an article yesterday in Business of Fashion about seasonless essentials, core business, selling full price. That's been our playbook for the last 5 years. And we really focus on a full price, seasonless inventory that you don't have to turn over frequently, which makes us a tricky fit. Sometimes wholesalers don't know what to do with us, but customers know what to do with us. And the biggest disruption, of course, is that now you have access. You're giving access directly to customers, and instead of that access being controlled by all the same PR showrooms and wholesale showrooms and agencies, creative agencies, and department stores, you can give access directly to the consumer. And to Sam's point, we had the great privilege of being incubated by a brand that had spent 5 years working in this space before it was really established. Bonobos was part of that first generation along with Warby Parker of building a brand with a digital foundation, digital first. And as social acquisition and Facebook and everything became more expensive, they started really spending a lot of money on marketing, millions of dollars. And to your point, there's no doubt. I don't think anybody here, would argue that if you have the money to spend, it's a great advantage. But if you don't, it's not a terrible deterrent, to be honest, today. For us, as Sam said, our growth has been organic. The first 4 years of the brand, our total marketing budget in those 4 years didn't amount to $1 million combined. It's been organic, which is not to be confused with small. This is a year where we have triple-digit growth in our direct business this year over last year, but it's because ultimately as much as the world's changing, it's also not changing that much. At the end of the day, great product and great branding and trust and consistency is what really matters. And the ultimate vote belongs to the customer. And for us, I think that we're proud when people say, cult brand, because it means that it's the people who are voting. And it's not the biggest. We have raised the most money. We aren't doing $100 million in revenue yet, but we are really proud of the relationship we're establishing with our customer. That for us is like long-term, the best investment we can be making. So we use our capital mostly for product. That to me is the best marketing you can have, and stores to put the product in, whether those stores are digital, like our flagship, care.com, or physical, like the one that we opened in Soho and the one we're about to open in Venice in LA.
Yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense, and I love the juxtaposition of you sitting next to Amanda, and where Eric's business obviously is built on beautiful core staple pieces that are going to be there season after season. What Amanda has built at 19th Amendment, I think allows for certainly that, but also allows for a lot of customization on the customer's part. And for those of you who don't know, Nineteenth does a ton of on-demand manufacturing. I will leave the detail for Amanda. But I'd love for you to talk about sort of how you fell into that model and the advantages of that model for a direct business.
Yeah, definitely. So I'll start with just like my background. So I was a fashion designer after graduating from Parsons, went and worked for some very large brands, and then for some very small startup brands, and then eventually was actually funded for my own collection of line. And basically what I saw was just an uphill battle, a changing retail world, and no other way to do things differently. Like the retail world hasn't changed in over 100 years. So decided, let's look at the tech industry and see what they're doing differently, because they're taking the same amount of funding that one brand might use on a runway show and building $1 billion company. So got very involved in that world and learned about how to put out product without actually making it and testing and validating it. And it was like, wow, that's so brilliant. If we could put fashion products in front of consumers, gather feedback, and then get it made, that just seems like a smarter business model overall. So over the past about 4 years, my team and I have built out the technology to allow brands to do what they do every day, but in a much smarter way. So basically when we're looking at the landscape, we're like, all of these brands exist, but they're all competing against Amazon. What do they have that is so different and special and unique? And the thing is authenticity. So how do you scale that? How do you use technology to use that in a way that connects you directly with the customer, which ultimately will make you get that cult following? So what we did is we created this technology that allows brands to put product right in front of consumer, give you one sample, and then we've actually built out the on-demand manufacturing capabilities to get that product to a consumer in about 4 weeks. The difference is, and I won't go into all the manufacturing parts, it's basically a PLM, is that the customer is tied into that entire manufacturing process. They can sketch this from you, they can see your inspiration, they get updates directly from the manufacturer, all of them are in the US right now, so that they're tied into this journey. And Amazon's never going to do that. They're not going to have that authenticity. And what we've seen is that brands can use this to their advantage. Everything that they're already doing is just automated and scalable. And what we've seen over the past 2.5 years with our 780 brands who are, starting up and trying to do things in a different way with small marketing budgets is that it actually works. Overall, on the e-commerce side, if a customer goes through this process, gets something made just for them, and it's kind of customized in that experience, they're less likely to return. Our overall return rate e-commerce is 7%, which is amazing. They're more likely to purchase again, and they're more likely to spend more. I mean, average garments $300 to $500 for a small brand, which is really fantastic. So really, it's all about thinking about what your assets are now and how you can scale that and how that differentiates you from everything else that's already in the marketplace or in the market that you probably can't compete with.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right, and I think that the more you can put in the customer's hands, the more loyal they're going to be because they feel like they're part of the process. Melissa, I would love for you to talk about how at One Rockwell, when you're working with smaller brands, how you guys think about building out reach, but also maintaining authenticity and core.
Yeah, I would say One Rockwell certainly doesn't take every one of our clients and have a cookie cutter plan for everything we do. I think we holistically think about each brand differently, and we have, a core process that we go forward with to make sure that we're mapping out the right approach. But overall, there's never going to be one plan that works for everybody, and especially with some of the smaller businesses, they don't have the full staff to accommodate and compete with some of these bigger brands, but you don't necessarily need the staff or need everything that some of these bigger brands have. What we would like to do is really work with our small companies to figure out what's the core, how do we work together to make sure that we're using your staff appropriately and using the tools that are out there. There's platforms that are very easy to use, and there's third parties and integrations that we can seamlessly integrate. So if you have a team of one, because someone that came from the sales team and is now all of a sudden your e-commerce manager, we're going to work with you to cater to that team and to the business that you want to build. So you don't have to, and I'm sure you've heard this all the time, you don't have to be everything to everyone. Figure out who you are and figure out how you can do that today, but then also think about what some of the decisions you're making today, how that makes you scalable for the future. So a lot of times we're working with our clients to figure out what tools may make it easier for you on the client services side. There's apps like Return Magic that make it super seamless for your customer service team to be able to process returns, and it also makes it really easy for your customers to feel like they're getting that proper experience in returning an item and not feeling like they need to get on the phone and call the customer service team. There's also other apps and tools out there that are really easy to integrate that have a bunch of tools all in one. So for one or two or three people that are managing an entire site, you can go to one place to find everything and manage it within a certain period of time that's a lot less extensive than spending a whole day on, going through 50 different apps to make sure that you're kind of streamlining the process. So I think, in terms of the plan we create for our clients, it's always customized. It's always based on the foundation of the brand and what you see today, and then what you see in the future and how we can scale that not only with your online business, but with the staff that you have.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if you knew where I was going next, but that was an excellent segue. I think one of the things that I'll probably continue to harp on, and I think partially it's because of what I see on a day-to-day basis, but certainly the experience that all of you have had, is ways to build your digital and or direct business that aren't just marketing spend. We know that marketing spend is a useful tool, and certainly if you have the means, by all means, it's an advantage. But I think a lot of brands today are seeing their direct business really build and grow with other tools. And so Return Magic is a fantastic one. Obviously, on-demand manufacturing is a fantastic one, bringing the customer morning experience. Maggie, I'd love for you to talk about your experience with wholesale and that's impact on your direct business.
I think that we all, work in this industry, so the reality is that apparel is an extremely cash-consumptive business. And whether it's managing, buying inventory, or developing a new product, or opening locations for that product to live, or driving the audience to find that product, it requires capital upfront. And for us, wholesale was a great way to have a self-funded marketing channel. And regardless of what people say about, where department stores are going, the truth is that a department store like Nordstrom is so well regarded and well respected, and they've spent 100 years establishing trust with a really loyal customer base. And it's the same as appearing in Vogue. Say what you will about print media, everyone wants to be in Vogue. Everyone wants to be associated with Vogue, and having the validation of really established, trusted brands like Nordstrom and Vogue matter a time when you're new. And for us, the first 3 years, it was a wonderful place for people to discover us. We were only in a handful of their locations, but it taught us a lot about markets we should be in, where we had a product that was differentiated from the floor, where we had opportunity, where we would maybe not want to continue to develop. And it was really, a good way of testing out, being in a test kitchen in front of a much larger audience before we invested in physical retail. Physical retail for us has been the same thing. Our stores are a marketing investment for us, and better than wholesale, they're a profitable marketing investment for us, not just self-funded marketing. And again, this is something that I think reflects our company's priorities. Our priority is product. For other companies, it's a marketing story, and so it makes more sense to invest in amplifying that message digitally, maybe. And that's a part of our message, or a part of our business too. I think the other thing that goes along with marketing is differentiation. And we're able to talk to people in a way that a department store or a PR agency or creative agency or showroom would probably never let us talk to people. And our emails are very off the cuff, and they're written by in a way that it's not super copywritten, it's not triple approved, it's just truly direct. And we see 50% of our e-commerce business is driven by email. So it's a combination, I think, of making sure that we have product in front of people and that we are being ourselves, because otherwise we would go work for amazing brands that we admire, and it's already established and has already done this.
Can I add something? On the wholesale part, I totally agree. Working with retailers definitely helps our brands, and we've hosted our own kind of boutique pop-ups as well, and that's been fantastic. Getting in front of the consumer in a physical way is super, super important. We also like to think differently about that, and I apologize because I'm starting to sound like an Apple commercial right now, but basically what we did with our relationships with Macy's and Nordstrom and other ones that are kind of ongoing is, instead of investing in physical samples or actual products, the brands do inventory-less pop-ups. So what we've arranged with some of these retailers on their behalf are these inventory-less kind of displays where people can learn more about the product, place an order, and then have it made directly for them. So it's more of an experience in store, but without that upfront capital that is really required. And just to give you a sense, getting through the legal with the likes of a Macy's alone is going to cost you a lot in time and money. So I encourage you all to think a little bit differently about the wholesale model as well, because there's a lot of flexibility there, and the customer is looking for something different too. So it's not just online. You have to think about, how am I going to organically engage with this person way beyond purchase, but also in store as well. And we found that super effective. Our numbers were actually better for our brands in store when they went through this experience with the customer. So it's just something to rethink as well, I think.
Yeah, thank you for that, and I think that makes complete sense, and I think that comes back again to a theme of how do we attract the customer holistically, as opposed to just through one route, whether it's a subway ad or a banner ad or an Instagram ad, or just in wholesale. And I think, Paul, I'd love for you to talk about kind of when you guys are building out the strategy of One Rockwell, how you think about kind of hitting customers all over.
Yeah. I think about it kind of as everything's for a small brand, especially as a resource. You've got certain limitations of financial resources, you've got certain limitations of physical resources, and you look at everything you need to do and go, I'm not going to be able to do a blog and the Facebook and merchandise my site and manage my logistics, and how it's so overwhelming there. There's too many things to do. I need to automate everything. A lot of clients come in and they haven't even got a product in mind and they want to automate everything. And it's you can do that, but it costs an awful lot of money. And what I try and look at is your resources. What you got on your staff, what financially you can do, and then fill out kind of MVP of what you need to be able to do to touch on as many parts of that process as possible. And then once you get established, once you start going, then look at automation. I always say if you do something repetitively every day, you should be automating. But I had a client who wanted to automate the returns process before they even got a product. And it's yeah, you will need to do that when you get to that stage, but don't do it now. It's not about getting everything perfect. It's about getting online, establishing a benchmark in each of these elements of your process and of your how you get to market, and then improving each one when it's appropriate. Partnering with an agency that you trust, that you feel will give you good feedback, that you're always going to them to get direction from and help them that. But really, I look at how you go on that journey. What resources get spent first? Again, as Melissa was saying, it's automating and using tools that are out there available to you to touch on everything. Now, say for example, you want to get AdWords and you want to start getting into that, but you don't have any capacity to hire someone to do it, you don't have any capacity to do it yourself in any great degree. Just put a toe in that water, spend $200, $300, $500 a month, whatever it is you can afford, just to, and Google will appreciate it, and trust me, they'll affect their algorithm. But it's about choosing and when you spend your resources and how you spend the resources to get you to that next level, and not trying to do everything all at once that your competitors might be doing or the big box retailers are doing, and using those tools that are available to you to allow you to appear to be covering everything while you're establishing yourself. And I've seen many brands who are very successful, and their head of e-commerce was an intern a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. Use the people around you. They're mostly online shoppers themselves, and mostly know how your competitors work. Trust the people around you. If you don't trust them, they shouldn't be working for you, or they shouldn't be around you. So, utilize those resources, and think outside the box on how you can establish yourself in each of those sectors.
And I think you talked about sort of getting outside of the one-size-fits-all approach, and I think that's helpful, and I think it makes sense because I think we are in such a copycat kind of state of mind right now, where so many brands are popping up, and something works for one brand, and the next thing you know, the next 800 brands that are founded are doing the same thing. And as badly as I might want a blog about my cosmetics brand, I probably don't need one about my condiments brand, and everything in between. So I'd love for you guys to talk. Obviously, you all on this panel have a ton of experience testing things that may or may not work to building your direct business, and I'd be curious to hear about, frankly, either something that you thought was going to work that didn't, or something that was kind of a flyer that did for your business over the past 4, 5, 6 years.
I think one thing to touch on that is, don't assume upstream. If you've got, say you do Instagram yourself, in your office do, you don't write very much, and you don't have a copy editor, do an Instagram feed on your site instead of a blog. I see people trying to do a blog, but then once you launch it, once it's living, you have to feed that beast, and that's from now till the end of time. So don't establish an area of your site or your process that you can't easily manage and continue. So if it's a case of you want to take a different photo of the way to work, and that's part of your existence, well, you may like some shoes, and you should incorporate that into your part of your lifestyle into your site. Don't try and consume upstream. Don't try and do things that don't come naturally to your brand or naturally to yourself, because you won't be able to continue doing it. It won't be authentic. And authenticity, no matter which way you come at it leads through onto the site, it leads through onto your business. If you're not authentic to yourself, then it'll be obvious very, very quickly. You can fake when you launch a site, but launching a site is, day one, it's a baby. It grows into this big beast, and you have to be true to you and true to your brand. Otherwise, it's not going to. It's going to be too hard to manage. It's not going to be representing the way you want to be.
Yeah, that too. In terms of going back to your question and sort of avoiding ways to try something and realize it doesn't work. We always take a data approach. So if you don't have data originally because you're a new brand starting up, the first thing we want to do is put Google Analytics on your site and find ways to track your new users that are on there. So learning more about their demographics, what are they buying, what are their shopping patterns, that's going to help dictate how you grow your business. So instead of, copying what the rest of the industry is doing, look more at your own business and figure out how to grow it in your way based on your own data and match that to your goals and your KPIs so that you can avoid some of the investment that you're going to need to grow the business by making sure that you're doing it with something to back it up.
So,
So the beauty of being able to kind of see, over 700 brands kind of operate is that not everything works for everyone. But what we've built is, along with the manufacturing and the on-demand customer interface, we've also given brands a data dashboard. So as soon as I launch a product, they're actually seeing in real time, like who's viewing, where they are, who's purchasing, what the behavior is, which is really important. And like we made it very visual so that it can be fed back to the design team too, so that they're iterating on product based on actual feedback. So it's all about testing and putting things out there, but like looking at the data, whether that be through GA or through something else, and making sure that's incorporated in every aspect of your business, not just going back to your marketing team, because it should go back to your design team, it should go back to your sales team, or that might be the same person. But it's super important to keep that kind of niche customer who's truly following your brand and really truly understand them and make a product that is right for them and respond to them in the right marketing way. It's so interesting. We've had brands who have like placed product on Solange and haven't gotten a single sale from it. And yet that might work for another brand. So it's all about testing and like micro testing. At 19th Development, each week we try to test one new kind of like marketing thesis and just see what it looks like for our brands and put some ideas out there and try to feed it back to the community to kind of share all of these learnings, which I think are super important.
There is all kind of stuff that we've tried, and I would say like it's also about like trying something that works at one stage for you might not make sense later on, and vice versa. So we've done things like for $1 you can try out a pair of our best-selling jeans at home, which was awesome for us at a stage where no one had heard of Air jeans, and it was literally no risk, no obligation reason to try this product, and we saw great metrics around it. It also involved having a lot of inventory out at any particular time, and to your point, it wasn't all automated. It's, like people in a room dealing with the returns and the outreach and billing and all that sort of thing. So it was a fantastic way for us to acquire customers early on, who then became loyal repeat customers and were meeting us through like our gateway drug, this skinny jean called the Jack Jean, so comfortable. But that was like amazing for us in our first and second year, but it's not something we're doing now because it would be a big distraction for us, and we'd rather focus on introducing new categories than, giving people home trial on one jean. And, that's something I think, like, Warby did the same thing. It's not like we came up with that idea, and they've scaled back a ton on their home try-ons also. And another thing that we do now a lot is wait lists, and that was sort of an inadvertent discovery, but we were working on launching a new product category, relaunching t-shirts. And we just, a free woohoo form. The style didn't exist on the site, there was nowhere to sign up for it. We literally just sent an email and said, you want a t-shirt, we're going to launch t-shirts, sign up to find out the day before they go live. And that story ended up getting picked up, and each time it got picked up, a crazy multiplier. We started with like 300 people on the wait list, and finally wrote about it. And then it became, by the time the t-shirts launched, a 3,000 person wait list, which we did not have the inventory as a small brand to cover. And it's built this awesome cycle of demand and scarcity and exclusivity and early access. And that was a style we ended up selling out of it in the pre-launch day before it even went live. And so now wait lists have become a big part of our messaging to the customer. It's a great way for us to gut check our buys and to test demand for new businesses before they even go live, which is, I think, obviously the whole company on that idea. So testing, absolutely. Making sure that the investment in each test is commensurate to what we expect out of it. So we'll do fun, weird stuff and not spend too much money on it. We have these really beautiful textiles like Italian camel hair and like really gorgeous denim, but It's super hard to communicate that online. Like, no matter how great the technology is, you cannot feel the fabric on your body. And so we were like, how do we communicate the personality of these gorgeous textiles? We're so proud of the mills we work with. So we made stuffed animals out of them, and it was literally our head of sourcing production sewed them. We sketched them, she sewed them at home, and they were so awesome. They're like, she weighted them down, they were pennies, and they're basically these weird stuffed animals made out of gorgeous fabrics. And we like made a little stop motion video and had personalities for them. And we did it all ourselves, no real investment. It was made out of scraps, wastage, and that ended up, we just put a link in our Instagram bio on a free housing site, and it got 3,000 views in the first, I don't know if it was the first few weeks that we had it live. And it was just a nice way of doing something that was fun for us, because you can measure clicks, you can measure sales, but fun is really important. I think that there's an emotional quotient, otherwise we wouldn't be in this industry. And I'll be getting paid a lot more somewhere else probably. But we have fun. And I think while you're small, you have to take everything that's a challenge and make it to your advantage. So the fact that we're small means there's no rules and you can try stuff and you can do anything, but you have to do it. And we didn't invest much in that campaign, if you can call it that, but it was a really fun project. It was a way to get eyes on the brand and tell a story that in a different way than other people were doing it. So I would say there is no shortage of things that we've tried, things we're going to try, making sure that we are smart about how and when we invest in it, and deciding what makes sense at each stage. Is sort of the criteria that goes into deciding which initiatives we explore. So
I think the waitlist piece is a really interesting one, and I think obviously we all live in this world where we place value on scarcity, and I think that's one of the biggest ways that our industry has changed and trended the past couple of years. There's a company in our portfolio that I will not disclose, but what I will tell you is that occasionally they'll put out of stock on their website when they're not, and they consistently see for that item, and oftentimes it's something they just actually want to move and are sitting on big stock of, and the wait list goes through the roof. They can't get anyone to look at it until it's out of stock. One thing we talked a lot about today is authenticity, and I think that's the most key, and I think most of us today, if we did a poll of what's most important to us in the brands we're buying, it would be authenticity. Which brings me to everyone's favorite buzzword, which is influencer marketing. And I would love to hear you guys talk about ways you've used it, if it's been helpful, and if it hasn't, sort of why it hasn't. Because I think something that I've seen across our brands is a wild volatility between successful influencer marketing and complete flop influencer marketing. And I think it's very quickly becoming, or has already become, a place where I'm seeing a lot of brands spend a lot of money for sort of a black hole of returns.
So we've seen more success with our brands who use micro-influencers. For some reason, their communities seem to be a bit more engaged and feel that they are connected to that influencer in a way. But overall, when brands work with influencers, the ones that are successful are the ones that work with them in an authentic way. They might involve them in the design process. It might be a series, not just one post of them wearing a product and being gifted or whatnot, which is very, very expensive. And truthfully, we just haven't seen the return on that. But yeah, it's about engaging, because the customer sees right through everything right now. And the more that you can storytell and the more that you can work with people who are really advocates for your own brand, the better. And another thing I will say is you have a huge advantage. If you have a designer on your team, that's your influencer. People want to see that person make something. They want to get involved in the process. That's why Project Runway has been so successful. Whether you like it or not, I don't think you have a choice besides kind of being out there in the public and saying, like, these are the people actually making your clothes, and this is why we're doing it, and here's a story. Because I think what we're missing, or what people are looking for online, and in store as well, is that human connection. And the more that you can build upon that human connection in an authentic way, whether that's through an influencer that you're working with, or whether that's through your own team and making up your own personalities and really doing that, that's where we see the big wins with our brands. And that's where customers come to us and they say, oh, I've been following this designer and I just showed up at their pop-up and I traveled 3 states to get here. And it's just like the most amazing connection, and that's a customer that they will have for life. So I think you have a lot of assets internally already that you should be tapping into. And if you do bring in outside talent, make sure it matters and that it's authentic.
Yeah, 1000% agree. We haven't done hardly any, and it's been through friends, and some of them are influential, but we don't do paid influencer marketing. But what we do is, and we debate this internally on our team constantly. There was an email we sent out a while ago where our business we project for growth, but it was growing at a rate that was beyond what we had anticipated, and we were running out of inventory it had gone past the exciting place, and it was like, shit, like we don't have stuff, the shelves are bare, like this is not good, and it's coming, but it's going to be like 3 weeks before we're back in stock on all this stuff. And we sent an email out, and internally we debated it like line by line, word by word. Everyone had a different point of view on it, and we were saying what we ended up writing was, look, these are the good things that are happening. Open the store, this doubled. We are sold out of stuff, but we're working really hard to get back into it. And we're a small team. We are less than a dozen people, and that's true. And so this is funny that you segued from faking out, sold out to authenticity, because there's definitely the humble brag marketing, and that's so smart. We're not, I guess it's on us that we didn't think of that. I feel dumb now, but when it's the truth, no shame in sharing it. And we ended up going ahead and sending it without any edits, because the one person was like, I don't think we want to say that we're doubling, even though that's the truth. What if, does it sound like this? And the other person's like, I don't know if we want to say that we're less than a dozen people. We sound too small. And it's like, but that's the truth. And I think people like to be a part of a winning team. And I think that they like to be a part of a small winning team, because your influence is that much greater. And we were writing it to our audience. We weren't putting it in, a newspaper or something that's going to go without any context. So there are people who have already shown an interest in us and follow us. And so it felt like sharing the truth, which is so scary when you come from a big company or a big brand. It's not done. It's done in a much smarter way, I think, where it's a more calculated way. But that is to me as a consumer super exciting when I see behind the scenes, or I realize the brand I love is actually just 2 people and an intern. And that to me is so much cooler than the opposite, and being like, oh, it's a machine, and oh, they had that agency do all their branding. Oh, I feel less like I've discovered I'm part of something pretty cool.
Yeah, I was going to say, when it comes to social influence, I would say most people are going to a site not so much just to always buy or to read a blog. They're really going for more of an experience these days. I feel like the physical retail stores had more of that advantage a few years ago, but I think from an e-commerce side, we're kind of finding those tools where customers are just going to the site and still getting that same experience and exposure. There are tools out there that can be used to personalize the experience, and I think by taking some of the social elements, you don't have to be on every single social channel. I think finding the right ones and figuring out how you can integrate it with your site so it feels holistic, but also that customers can go to different channels and feel like they're getting a similar story but not the same story, so you can capture them in each of the different markets.
Yeah, I think influencers was kind of like a bell curve. So they became really popular, and everyone wanted it. And a bunch of influencer platforms came out, so you could pay money for influencers as a service kind of thing, instead of platforms as a service. And it quickly lost all authenticity. And I think we saw everyone jumping into that and then jumping out of it. Now it's become more normal, a bit more normalized, in that it does work if you are authentic and if you pick an influencer that loves your brand or is involved in invested in your brand. I would say never go for an influencer that is going to override what you want to do as a brand. You don't want the tail wagging the dog. But if it complements your product and it complements what you do, then I've seen it work. The biggest influencers I think, are your product, your brand advocates, and they're your heavy shoppers. They're the people that you want to introduce a loyalty program to make sure that they are rewarded for their early adoption and love of your brand, and they can influence more people than I've seen the kind of more famous influencers. Those kind of things, they can work, but they're big spend, and you give away a lot, and they have their own marketing plans, they have their own marketing initiatives, they've got their own brand to take care of, and they're not going to be so concerned about your brand. So the micro-influencers, your own site users, your own heavy shoppers, the ones that can be part of the loyalty program, they're the ones that work best, especially when you're starting off. You don't need to give away all the budget to someone just because they're famous and just because they got 1 million followers. They're going to be spending a lot of different brands. They're going to be advocating for. You might get lost in the mix, and you have no control over them. So I would say own control, keep it close to your chest. If someone really loves your product and they haven't a social outreach, great, use them. Send them your product for free. Engage with them. But really focus on your own product and your own brand and your own customers, because they're the ones that are really going to advocate for you in the long run.
And so it sounds like something that all you guys touched on there was community and building a brand community, whether it be rewarding your most loyal customers, whether it be using micro-influencers who don't necessarily feel like a celebrity, but maybe feel like someone who, if you were in the room with them, you'd actually be friends with them. And I think that that's a great place to kind of tie it up. So this is the last question, and we'll open up for Q&A to the group. But how do you guys think about building communities, in your own brands, for other brands? I think we've probably all seen all of the scary headlines. Retail is dying, or how do you scale to be $1 billion business in retail? And yet at the same time, Supreme just did that, and very few people, there's never a caveat in those headlines. So I'd love for you guys to talk about sort of community and how you think about it with your own brands.
I mean, Supreme did it over 25 years.
Totally.
So that's the biggest, there is no hack, I don't think. We talk about authenticity and scale, like a couple of things get thrown around in there that are like misleading or a distraction. One is like, who in here is trying to build $1 billion company? Like, not no, but, or are you trying to build like a great $100 million company or a really profitable $10 million business? It doesn't have to be a binary outcome when you're talking about apparel. We're in an emotional business, and that's where community, I think that's the best place for community to originate, is from an emotional place of shared values. Clothing's a way of expressing a part of how you'd like to represent yourself externally into the world. And, we might be having a different conversation about community, scale, and value if we were talking about widgets, but we're not. We're talking about something really emotional. And so the community piece takes a long time. Really great brands take a long time to build. There's no hack to trust. Yeah, sometimes you meet somebody, it's like people, sometimes you meet somebody and you're just like, oh, I gotta know them, that we're gonna know each other a long time. And other times it takes a while to get to know somebody and appreciate what you love about them, where you line up. And I'm not the best person to talk about how to build a community digitally, even though that's a part of my job. We don't have the biggest following and we don't have the biggest audience. What we do have is a super loyal customer. If you saw our numbers and saw the sales that we do off the size of our customer base, it's like kind of wacky. What we have is a super engaged, loyal, repeat, high value customer who's really targeted. And that's the thing that being online allows you to do. You can scale hyper-personalization. You can be yourself and find all the other people who align at all with you, and they're not just based on geography anymore. And that's the most exciting part. And all the stuff works. Like influencer marketing, if you have the money to spend, why not? If you don't have the money to spend, you don't need to. And it's just a matter of like how long it's going to take, how big it can be, but you never want to betray the reason you're doing it in the first place, which is to be a distinctive voice, be yourself, and I think that when those things come in conflict, customers know. There's a bullshit detector for when you've traded off where you started for where you want to go, and you can see as a consumer the brands that have made that trade-off, and it's a choice to make.
I 100% agree with everything you just said and love what you said about what fashion actually is. The reason we called ourselves 19th Amendment is because the 19th Amendment gave everyone a voice in the democratic process. And we believe that everyone should have a voice in the future of fashion. And that voice is very different from individual to individual. So if you're a brand, have a really strong voice because there's someone out there searching for it. And if you don't resonate with the trend that's happening next season, you don't have to follow it. Put stuff out there that you like, that you can go back to your fashion school days and just get inspired and create things. I mean, some of the collections that do the best on our platform are the ones that are just super organic and just kind of out of left field, but there's an audience for that, and that's the beauty of the internet, is that you can find that audience, and it's probably easier to find that audience than just to go with a trend and then start competing with the Amazons and everyone else in the world. So go niche, find that tribe, build that tribe, and stick to that voice, because that's how you're going to build and that's how you're going to gain trust. The second that voice wavers, that's when people leave, and they see that it's not an authentic relationship, and there's just something there that they're not going to resonate with.
So from an e-commerce perspective, there's a bunch of obvious ways to build a community. One of them is having online reviews, having your own customers be able to work with other customers to make sure that they're buying the right products, so that they're buying something that might fit someone best, but maybe not someone else based on their body type. And I think One Rockwell doesn't think about, the approach that reviews are the only solution to build a community where customers can talk to each other. For example, one of our maybe somewhat larger or more heritage clients was the Sports Act. And while they've been around forever, they're definitely moving more to a direct-to-consumer business, which is something very new to them. So we try to find the balance between how do you take something that has such stability and such prominence in the world in terms of its name and who they are, but how do you also translate that to a new type of venture in where the business is going. And instead of doing reviews, we decided to kind of flip the switch a little bit and do more like a quote. So we actually reached out to customers who have been loyal customers for many years, whether it's your grandmother or the kid that got their first backpack going to school. And so instead of featuring reviews, we were featuring their quotes. Talk about the stability of the bag, how long they've been, with the brand, all the patterns and collaborations that they love to keep the brand fresh. And so that was just an alternative way of building a community, and a way of just thinking outside the box.
Just to follow up on that point, I think it's a good one. Using your community or growing community in a way that supports your brand. Clients, you see a lot of clients do, say, customer service through Facebook, where suddenly it starts its own conversation on Facebook that people discuss the sizing, people discuss all aspects of your product, and there's a support mechanism. Maybe you don't have a big team to answer all the questions that are coming in. But if the community starts answering their own questions, start having feedback, and start communicating with each other, you've suddenly got people who are a self-supporting side to a certain extent, and you can do more with less. The other point I'd like to make about community or social is more important one, but data is, I think we touched on earlier, is so important. Understanding where all your verticals are coming from, how all your leads are coming from, understanding what's working on a community, where you should invest more in which community. You can fix any part of your business process. You can improve logistics, you can improve customer service, you can improve marketing. The one thing you can't get back is data. If you don't start gathering the data early and keeping it and organizing it, the brands I see doing really well and grow really quickly are the ones that establish the baseline of data management and information architecture early. It sounds like a big mouthful, but just every touch point with the customer, every way you communicate, every aspect of of how you do business, try and gather data at each point, because you can never get that back, and you never know how you can use that data in years to come. 2 years from now, you might have a big marketing initiative, and if you don't have the data to drive those decisions, you want to make the right decision, you're going to spend money in the wrong direction. So even if you're very, very early on, try and gather, if you've got a small pop-up store, ask people to be more aggressive before what they purchase, incentivize them to do that. Every time you touch a customer, you should gather some data, and you never know how that data is going to be used, so you never get it back again. So try and keep it, store it, and organize it as most efficiently as you can, because it's really important aspect of your business.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. At this point, I'd love to open up to the audience for you guys to ask many of the panelists any questions.
Hi, thank you. I have two questions. Like, I guess when you talk about data, it's such a big word. Like, what kind of data is the most useful to you? Like, customer age, their location, like, where they came from their acquisition, what data?
It depends what you're going to use it for. All data points are useful and important. I think you hear about 360 view of the customer. That's where you want to get to. You want to understand the first time they've seen your product, the first time they've touched your product, the first time they've purchased. So it's not about I need to say tell me the data and know what age they are. It's more about filling in the gaps that you can at any point in time. So say if you're checking out and after you check out, you might ask a few questions about what purchase. You're much more likely to get real information then than before checkout, because you'll need it after purchase. So think about they're all fine online experience, and how you can fill in all the blanks. And it really depends on your business. If you're, say, a t-shirt company or a bikini company, and knowing where they live, and what climate they live in, and when the summer is kind of important. So location is very important. So very age-based and so forth. But it really is depending on the business. So I would say think of the 360 view as a where you want to start to, and don't put roadblocks in front of people because you need that data. It's something that they should give willingly or it should be natural part of the process. Don't say, just before you check out, can I ask you what age you are? You're going to lose conversions. But after checkout, maybe you can ask those questions to get more real answers as well. So look at your business, look what's important to your product, and try and fill in those gaps, but never miss an opportunity to gather data if you have. Even if it's just the smallest like on a Facebook post that can connect through to feedback on Facebook, connect through to your purchase on the site. It's important that you start connecting those dots, and it's never too early to start.
My other question was about Facebook ads or Instagram ads or Google remarketing. What has worked for you? What hasn't? Do you try and keep building like Instagram or do you keep for pins? Do you try to build all your socials to keep like the ads everywhere, or do you just find one that's working and grow it on it?
First, I just want to add off of Paul's point, which is like the biggest piece of data you need is an email address. So before you find out everything else about it, if you're really talking like where to start, the biggest thing you need to know is who your customer is so you can talk to her again. Where you are today is where you want to go, and you want to let her know as you, I'm saying her because we're looking for business, but you want to let them know as you develop. And so the biggest thing you need to build when you're building an audience is like keeping track so you can talk to them again. Number one. And then as for social channels, no, pick one. It'll be, to your point, it'll be whatever complements your natural strengths. If you're a visual person, it's probably Instagram. If you're somebody who's really good at building lists and networking, maybe it's Facebook. If you're good at video content, maybe it's Facebook. Maybe if you are, concept boards is your thing, Pinterest could be your thing. But for most brands of our generation, like last 5 years launch, it's Instagram. That's the most holistic, cohesive, single meeting place for, depends on what your demographic is, but for people in their 20s and 30s, that's the place.
My question's for Maggie. How do you think through product release strategy? Obviously, you have a wholesale channel, and wholesale partners typically receive product on a very strict seasonal calendar. But this is an internal struggle that we deal with all the time, having a direct wholesale business. How much do we give? How frequently? How can keep people coming back?
Very good question. The two businesses are completely counterintuitive to each other. In wholesale, it's about newness and it's about differentiation from the floor. So you've got to have like color and new sequins and texture and pattern, so that you look over here, which is really hard if you built your business on understated basics, luxury essentials over here. And it's really about making the floor feel new every 4 weeks and keeping deliveries fresh, which is really hard if you build a seasonless business. And your best sellers are the same best sellers you launched with 4 years ago. So we found that we weren't alone in seeing like that a uniform dressing is the way that there's a shift in consumer behavior. It's going more from like Carrie Bradshaw or OOTD to like this is the uniform, and a great striped shirt is always a part of it, a great jean is always a part of it. And we're not alone in that. Stitch Fix is making a business based on merchandising by key item rather than by brand on a tee stand. Even Nordstrom is rolling out a new merchandising strategy where they're trying to develop more key item assortments, like this is the best in class black jean, not just this is what's new from Lily. So I think it's like, I think that the industry is shifting and wholesalers are responding to that shift. We are actually suspending some of our wholesale business in order to focus on direct to consumer. We're getting a better margin, we need the inventory, we don't have the cash to be everywhere, and in the one channel we're getting an email address and the other we aren't. So for us, we are diminishing wholesale from 35% of our business to about 10%. And we're really focusing on direct to consumer, which allows us to use all the data we've gathered over the last 4 years and control inventory rollout, control product life cycle, control full price selling with the data we've gathered over the last 4 years. So we launch a new product every week in a limited runway, which is like our test kitchen for developing new essentials. But half of our business is done, actually over half of our business is done with like a core essential program. And so we are trying to work with wholesalers like a Stitch Fix that complements that strategy, and less so with ones that are like merchandising a whole floor by brand, because our brand isn't gonna look that different it doesn't look that different from February to June, and we think that's one of the best things about our brand, but it's not a great fit for a traditional department store. You either have to show new things to old people or old things to new people. We try to do both. So we're growing our audience pretty quickly with our core, which is like a great gateway drug. But like I said, we do launch a new style every week. So there is newness for people who already know about us, and then there's really proven winners that we can invest in with a lot of confidence as like the gateway that most new people are meeting us through.
I think that's a change based on like the growth of seasonal releasing, the way you can go to market sort of like the music change from albums to just trucks. You're gonna have these
there's so much access. Exactly, so much access and so much choice. A customer isn't restricted anymore to like driving 20 minutes to the one mall and do they have a Gap or a Limited? Like no, like I'm dating myself a bit there, but now it's like, yeah, you have access to every single brand with international shipping and their apps around it if they don't, and so you're picking best in class items. People are shopping a little bit differently, and if you have enough of those items, or if those items are great enough, yeah, you've got brand, and you have the ability to establish trust in other departments because you've got them in one. It's so competitive. It's the best time in the history of the world to be a consumer. It's a tough time to be a legacy business, but they've got something small brands don't, which is capital. Small brands have all the advantage of opportunity, but the challenge of less access to capital. At the end of the day, the person who wins out is all of us who shop there. You know, we're going to get the best product at the best deal with the best service and the fastest shipping, and it's on, you know, businesses like ours to try to meet those demands. It's different than it was when we were starting off our careers.
That's like big releases during later, it's more of a trickle with smaller releases because you're engaging customer often, you're listening to customers you want that story to tell. You say if you're taking a product releases to be all the time to your sequel, you're not engaging with the customer.
integrity. So I think the methodology of releasing something weekly or more often.
In conjunction with the core.
Or, yeah, just
So that you're not dependent on those. They're volatile. There's risk inherent to releasing more new things. Like I would love to say that that t-shirt release was like when exactly is planned. No, that was great. That was awesome. But it wasn't something we had architected 10 months in advance. It's going to go like this, and then on Tuesday, so it's all pick it up. No, it was. There's surprises every time you release newness, and you mitigate that risk with, by having a really established business as the foundation.
Yeah, I would just say like our brands can launch a new collection. I'd say the average brand or our platform can probably do 60 collections a year. But they'll be like mini capsule collections. They may figure it on that and they may put that out to a whole new market and demographic and use their analytics to target them. And they'll keep their other collections actually available to shop because everything is made on hand. They can't have the risk of putting that inventory. They do see like kind of what levels of top and they may use that in a different way or different applications. So it's all about kind of combining all these efforts, but constantly keeping that customer providing them either something new or something that's reliable and they're just discovered.
I'm guessing that weekly product releases are relatively foreign to a lot of people in the audience, especially businesses that are still not in sale. And so I was wondering if Maggie, you could take us through like some of the key steps of what you guys do leading up to that product release, just to make sure you are engaging your audience. If it's like an Instagram a month out, and then an email a week out, and a follow-up email, or if it's or just some of the.
So people's attention spans are not that long, and with a waitlist in particular. For us in our business, because we're dealing with one brand and not the discovery element of bespoke, like manufacturing, we are, if you start a wait list or you're going to be back in stock in 4 months, that's too long. You're not going to see the conversion you'll see if you start a wait list in 2 months or 1 week before the product drops. So, if you tease their interest a month before the 8 people comment, oh my god, I love this jean, I want it, is it enough to build a business on it 3 months later when that jean drops? You've gotta build it's a very tight cycle. And sometimes press comes into play, intentionally, sometimes unintentionally in that time, but immediacy is super important. Sometimes we let people, we do a lot of Instagram stories, we show people the development of a product, and we engage in like a constant conversation with our audience around, like input and just take that feedback loop. But really when it comes to a launch, it's a week-long cycle at longest that we use to launch a product. Usually it's day of, and our launch days are our biggest days of the week. We launch a product on Mondays, and it's another way that we've incentivized people to sign up for emails, because our email isn't just like telling you about something that's been on the site for 4 months, like this is why displays are so great. No, it's telling you that this just went live, there's a limited quantity, and you have access because you're one of the people on our list, and you'll find out about it before it sells out. So I think scarcity, exclusivity, immediacy are how we want those things to play. We always launch on a Monday, establish like a rule for ourselves around all of that, and it's something that's particular to the digital conference. And to your point, that we're never working on sale. And you can't tell the storytelling in a sale, right? You can't like round up all the associates on a conference call and be like, okay guys, like tell it. And it's also doesn't work that way in stores. Stores don't have that kind of concentration of attention that digital does. In your inbox, you've got everybody at one moment, and you can't do that. Unless you're super easy to walk past. Literally our studio is on one side of Holstein and our shop is on the other. We walk past that line every day. But I just keep telling myself, 20 years from now, right? Super's 25. That's the thing I want everyone to remember. I know everyone's excited about it now, but it's 25 years old.
I think that's, I'm so glad you mentioned it the first time I brought it up, and I think that something that we think about a lot as an investor, and I hope that all of you are thinking about as entrepreneurs, founders, designers, merchants, etc. is there's so much noise today about building $1 billion business and Shark Tank and oh this just sold for that and TechCrunch and blah 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 blah, and this is not how our industry works. And you can't scale a brand in 2 years to be giant, and if you do, good luck what that brand looks like 10 years from now, because people are going to fry out of it and just move on. If there are any other questions, that would be great.
We work for a fine food brand now. We're kind of going back on cost and cost analysis on it. I know that's kind of
Yeah.
not a straightforward question.
No, it's helpful to know that you're in fine jewelry because the average order value will influence what you can even do it. Unfortunately for businesses, unfortunately for customers, free shipping is table stakes. You absolutely must have free shipping. And that is, as a new brand, as a brand that's establishing yourself, because what you want to do is remove every barrier, and you've gotten them to the point where they know about you, which is so hard. You've gotten to the point where they want something from you, which is so hard. You've gotten to them to the point where they put something in their cart, and you don't want to lose them there over $6, which or $10, which for you hopefully is percent to total of the order. You have to think of it as a part. Shipping is not like for digital business; it's a part of your unit costs. Like you just got to consider that. Otherwise, you're doing yourself a disservice. At scale, you might want to implement a threshold and say free shipping for orders over $50 or something, or charge for overnight shipping, or you should even charge for international shipping, of course. But free shipping, even if it's snail mail, I think is table stakes while you're establishing an audience. And then later on, it can be about operationalizing your business. Maybe that's going to be important. So at the beginning, I think remove any hurdle you can possibly remove for the customer.
So I'm just being told that we're about at time. I think that there's folks can certainly mingle after this. Thank you all so much for coming. Thank you very much to the panelists.